All right, so hopefully you can all see my screen. And hopefully if you are here joining me, you are here because you want to be a teacher, you want to work with children of some kind. So welcome, I'm glad you're here. My name is Babs Hughes. I am the program coordinator of the Early Childhood Division, and I also am an advisor to any of our education transfer students. I'm going to quickly go through the difference in those two programs because they are two different things, and I want to make sure that you are aware and that you're in the right program for what you want to do. And then I'm going to go through some of the introductory things that I think you need to know in our program as well. So, like I said, there are two kind of versions of our program. So this is a flow chart that just kind of helps us to see which program would be best for you. So if you want to work with small children, then you're going to look at the left. And sorry if you see me looking, I have two screens up and I'm looking at this other one. So if you see the side of my face, that's why. So if you want to work with small children, you kind of have a choice. Do you want to work in a daycare? Do you want to own your own daycare? Do you want to work at Head Start one day? Do you want to be a teacher's assistant in a public school? If the answer to any of those is yes, then the best fit for you would be our early care and education program. If you prefer to be a teacher one day, you want to be a certified teacher in an elementary school, then you have another choice to make. Do you want to work with the smaller kids, so 4K through 3rd grade? If that's the age group you'd like to work with, then you would be a better fit for our EDU early childhood transfer program. And for that, you would need to select which college you plan to transfer to one day. We have agreements with several just to make sure you're taking all the right classes. If you want to be a teacher and you want to work with older kids, like 2nd through 6th grade, that is an elementary area of concentration. It gets a little confusing because both of these actually work at elementary schools. It's just a different set of courses and a different age group of children. And then on the right over here is kind of some of the same information. So if you want to be a teacher, the first thing you have to do is decide which age group you'd like to teach. So 4K through 3rd grade would be our early childhood. You want to teach 2nd through 6th grade, that would be elementary. And then if you want to teach middle or high school, we have some mid-level transfer programs here. And so you would have to then select what subject area you would like to teach at middle and high school. For 4K through 6th grade, teachers typically teach all the subject areas, but as you get into middle and high school, teachers typically teach one subject area multiple times a day to different groups of students. All right, so again, if you want to become a certified teacher, our program here at OCTech leads you to an Associate of Arts degree. So it lets you get your first 2 years of education here at OCTech, and then you transfer on to a 4-year college or university. We have articulation agreements with Claflin, South Carolina State, and University of South Carolina. So what that means is they've given us a very specific list of classes that they will accept, so that we make sure that every single course you take here at OCTech will transfer with you whenever you move on to get your next degree. For those who are interested in working in daycares, owning a daycare, working in Head Start, being a teacher's assistant, we have our early care and education program. There's actually 3 different parts to that program. We have an associate's degree, a diploma, and a certificate. Those 3 programs have the same courses. They're just more courses depending on which program you choose. I will say, if you are currently in the certificate or the diploma program, I want you to think long and hard about becoming part of our full associates program. It just opens more doors as far as workforce opportunities and things like that to have your associates. The diploma and certificate are good credentials, but they don't actually help you get into a new position, if that makes sense. All of our education classes do have lab opportunities built into them. Not every single class, but over the course of your program of study here in our education program, you will be doing some classroom observation time and some interaction time. So we try to make sure you have hands-on experience observing in classrooms, working with students who want to make sure that this is what you really want to do whenever you finish. But also just so that you have some of that experience under your belt before you're actually in the workforce or you're moving on to your 4-year college. So typically 100 level courses, this is more for our early childhood than it is for our EDU classes because they don't have 100 level courses. But for our ECD classes, any 100 level courses that have a lab component are done in daycare facilities. And then 200 level courses, this is for EDU and ECD, are done in local schools. And we're going to talk just a second about what that means with COVID currently. For any class that has a lab requirement, you have to have a clean background check. Remember, we're sending you into these labs, and you are representatives of OCTech. So we have to be able to reassure that these daycare facilities and these school districts that we are sending in people who are going to be good role models for the students during their time there. So you will at some point, if you have a class with a lab this semester, you will need to do this immediately. You will have to get your own SLED background check. It needs to be done from SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. You can do it online. There is a small fee. I want to say it's $20, but it is a one-time fee. You won't have to do it again. Oh, there it is. It says $25. Excuse me. I see it right there in the directions. You can do it online. You only have to do it once over your entire career here at OCTech, but you do have to have it done before you can get your lab hours done. Make sure you use the official SLED law enforcement website. All of that will be provided for you in the course as well. But if this is something you want to go ahead and get done, then that would be even better. One less thing for you to do next week when classes start. But you can do it online. It gives you the option to print or to save it. I would recommend saving it or printing it because you may need that in a later class, and that way you don't have to run it again. You can just upload your old copy, if that makes sense. Also remember that when you go to these schools or to these daycares, you are representatives of OCTech. So make sure you're being professional in the way you interact with students, the way that you're dressed, wear your OCTech school ID, things like that, so that we make sure that you are representing OCTech in our community as professionally as possible. Also, these are great ways to get to network for future job opportunities. My first two jobs actually were ones that I worked where I worked during my years in college doing my lab experiences. So remember that this could just be a really long interview process. And so you want to make sure that you are someone that they would possibly be interested in hiring one day. You also have to think about what these lab experiences are going to look like this semester due to COVID-19. They might have different expectations from location to location. A lot of our daycare facilities are requiring masks, requiring temperature checks, and are asking our students not to interact with the children. Typically, we want you to be a little more hands-on, but just because of the current situation, they're asking for students that are there just to kind of go sit in a corner and do their observations and things like that, rather than having a lot of interaction. For students who are placed in elementary schools or in schools this semester, we will match you up with the teacher. And while that teacher is teaching online, you will visit the school virtually. When the schools go back in person, then you will follow that teacher into the classroom. So you will behave the same way that the teachers behave as well. All right, if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to stop me. So when you're in the classroom with us, there's two instructors in this program, Mr. Weeks and myself. Here are just a few expectations, and we'll talk about online expectations and why we need to know about that as well. So be on time, be punctual. I begin, if class starts at 8:10, excuse me, you better believe that I'm going to start at 8:10. I typically teach classes back to back to back, and you typically have classes back to back to back. So we're going to start on time all the time. Don't be late. Usually there's something important that I'm talking about, whether it's an assignment or a past assignment, that I talk about before I get started in the new week's content. So just make sure you're there and ready for that. Also, just make sure you're submitting assignments on time. We typically have things due every single week. And if you miss a week or you don't turn things in for a week or two, it can just kind of compile and back up and be hard to catch up. So just make sure you are aware of the expectations and that you stay on top of your assignments so that you yourself don't get overwhelmed. Be prepared. Each week you're expected to do some sort of type of reading for class. So just make sure you're actually doing that, because it's going to make what we do in class a lot more meaningful if you are prepared and know what we've talked about. Make sure you know what due dates look like In every course, there is a schedule that's a one-page summary of what is going to be due and those due dates over the semester. So just take a look at them in advance so that you can kind of plan life outside of school around when those things are due. Turn in projects in a timely manner, and plan to check your email at least once a day. We're going to look at D2L a little more in just a second. You probably have already done it as well, but D2L is the way that we will email you. We'll click an email from D2L. If you don't want to log into D2L multiple times a day, I would highly suggest going into D2L and forwarding your D2L email to whatever email address comes to you or is easiest for you to check. So for instance, I am as guilty as anybody of having my cell phone in my hand at all times. So I forward my D2L email to the email that I can get on my phone so that I am not going days and days and days without checking email. I am a good emailer. So if you need something, emailing me is probably the quickest way to get in touch with me, which we'll talk about in a second. But just know that especially while we are fully remote, while we're doing classes online for these next few weeks, which we'll talk about in a second also, being prepared and checking your email is going to be super duper important because there's going to be a lot of important information that your instructors are going to share with you via email. Cell phones should be silenced and out of sight. Just be polite in class. Again, I always have my cell phone on me. I just am not going to be answering it in class unless I expect an emergency. And in that case, if you have an emergency or you're expecting a call, just let me know, step out of the classroom, do what you need to do. You're adults, you're responsible enough, just be respectful about it. Also, just participate. That's in class and online. I see everybody has their camera off right now, which is completely fine. But for your classes, it's really hard as an instructor to talk to a blank screen of black squares, and especially when we're trying to have discussions. So if possible to have your camera on and be able to participate, your instructors would really appreciate it. So like I've alluded to a few times, there have been some changes here currently at OCTech due to COVID-19. Again, this is things you probably already know. I just want to reiterate it. So we will begin classes next week, but they will be virtual. So your attendance for all of your courses, except for those that were already fully online, but especially your education courses, I can speak to those in detail, you still have to come to class. You're just not going to physically come to campus. You're going to log into Zoom to be able to get to, you're going to log into Zoom during your regularly scheduled class time, and you're going to attend class that way. So that way we can still have the same conversations that we would have if you were here in person. Currently, we're scheduled to start meeting in person during the week of January 25th. So we are supposed to have 2 weeks of that virtual classroom meeting, and then we're supposed to meet back in person. That could always change, and we will always send out alerts and things if that does change. Depending on the section, some sections you will return to campus. Other sections you might continue to meet via Zoom. So this semester, for the first time, we had some synchronous options. So any classes that have a section number that has an S at the end, those classes will only meet via Zoom all year. They will be held the same time as when the students who are coming onto campus will be. So it'll be interesting because we'll all be able to interact, the people who are at home, the people who are in class, and all of us will be in class together. Some will just be doing it remotely, and some will be doing it in person. The other really good thing about doing it this way is that if you get sick, if you have an emergency, if you're exposed to someone who you need to quarantine because of COVID, you can still come to class from the safety of your home. Even if you weren't registered in the synchronous section, you can still log into Zoom and be counted present for that class as well. For people who are going to return to campus eventually, remember that masks are required. I'll be teaching in a mask and a shield, and the classroom will be marked off to allow for social distancing, so you'll know where to sit and still be able to space out. Classroom sizes are limited, so there should be plenty of room for everyone. All of our education courses are hybrid or flex courses. So I can't speak for your gen ed classes, but for all education, anything with an ECD or an EDU, they are all hybrid or flex. So hybrid means that you're going to only come to class once a week for each of your for each of your classes. And then the second half of your course content is done online. So again, making sure you are being active and participating online, making sure you're staying up to date with emails and checking in with D2L is going to be really important for all of your education classes because they are half done online. So courses will meet online once per week or once a week in person, depending on that sentence doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. The second half of the course is done in D2L. If you are an ECD student, so one of our early care and education students, then these courses are flex courses. So that means on your schedule, you'll see a morning section and an evening section, but you only have to go to one of those each week. You don't have to go on Tuesday morning and Wednesday evening. You pick one or the other. And if this week you want to go to class on Tuesday morning, but then next week something happens, you wake up and you have a flat tire and you can't make it to class Tuesday, you can come to class Wednesday evening and it's no problem. That's the flex part of that, is that we're really flexible about your attendance in those classes. All right, the next few pages may be redundant over something you've already talked about, but I just want to reiterate how to navigate D2L because, again, all of our education classes are half online and half in person. And so you need to be really comfortable with D2L. I think it's pretty user-friendly. It's just getting in there and learning how to navigate it a little bit. But remember, D2L, half the year classwork will be done here. Log in, you should see an announcements page on the front, and that's where you're going to look for any important messages. For your ECD and EDU classes, this is where you're going to find the Zoom link for the Zoom meeting. So here's an example. This is ECD 101. In the main announcements, once you log into the course, you can see down at the bottom, there's a picture of a Zoom, and then underneath it says morning session Zoom link, evening session Zoom link. So whether you're attending Tuesday morning, you're going to click the one that says morning session. If you're attending Wednesday evening, you're going to click the one that says evening section. All right, all of the content, everything you need to know about your course in D2L will be located under that content tab at the top. So when you click on you log into D2L, you click on the course, the first thing you're going to do is go to content. And once you go there, you're going to be able to see everything that you need for the semester. For your ECD and EDU classes, they're all organized the same. I can't speak to how your other classes are organized because I don't control those, but for ECD and EDU, if you look under course materials, which is highlighted in red here, this is where you're going to find that schedule that I was talking about. So I personally don't print anything, but I do print out my weekly schedule because I like to see what's due each week and what I need to read each week. That's where you're going to see your weekly assignments, your due dates, things like that. That's one great place to look really quickly for a quick summary of what's expected for the semester. The other thing you're going to find here is your syllabus. Again, it's going to explain all your assignments, your textbook requirements, things like that. It's a little more detailed, but if you have questions about anything in the course, that's a great place to look before you ask the classmate or ask me. The other thing here is your textbook. For ECD and EDU classes, when I tried to make them what we call inclusive access, which means you pay for your textbook when you pay for your tuition. It didn't always work that way. For some of them, you'll have to get a code from the library, from the bookstore. But for the most part, your books are going to be e-texts. I did that to try and prevent people from having to come to campus unnecessarily. And so here you will, under course materials is where you'll find the link to that textbook as well. You'll have to get to the text from this page. And you can see like here in the middle, this is a McGraw-Hill textbook. So you can see that information under that tab there. They're different. Some of them are Red Shelf, some of them are Pearson, things like that. So Cengage is another brand. So the brand might be different, but they're all textbook and it can all be located under the course materials tab. In all of your early childhood or your education courses, content opens up week by week. So you can see under the second circle here, chapter 1 for this course begins January the 10th. So on January the 10th, this content will pop up. You can't see it before then. The idea is to keep you from getting confused about what to do each week. So if I were to click this, which I can't because this is a screenshot, but if I were to click this, all your assignments and all your expectations for the week would pop up. And as you do them and complete them, there's a little check mark that tells you I'll also, in the classes that I teach, I will send out an email at the beginning of the week that tells you what the expectations for the week are. And I also grade things by the following week. So usually on Monday, if you haven't completed your assignments, the course is open from Sunday to Sunday in the ECD and EDU classes. So I come in on Monday morning, and if you haven't done something, you're going to get a 0 in your grade book. And so you're going to know that that's something that you need to be taken care of immediately. Another thing, other than changing your email, you can see on this page, I should have done a thing of this, but you can see the top right here underneath my picture. There's a little email tab. So that's where you'll go to change your email and to forward your email if you want to do that. There's also ways to set up alerts about your grades, and you'll get a text or an email or something every time an instructor enters a grade. I would highly recommend doing that because it's a great way to know that A, what you made on something, or B, if you missed an assignment. Because again, we'll go in and put 0s for things that you've missed. And sometimes it may just be an accident that you overlook something, and getting that alert will alert you that I need to go in and make some changes. To get back to the homepage of the course, you can just click this thing at the top. We'll take you back to that main page for the course, and it'll take you back to that announcements page. And then if you click My Home on the top left, it'll take you back to, this is the course homepage. So on the course homepage, where you hit that piece at the top, my office hours, or whoever your instructor is, their office hours are located on the right, as well as the contact information. Like I said, I am a really good emailer, so email is always probably the best way to get in touch with me. I will certainly call you back if you call me and leave me a message, or if I don't answer for some reason. But email is just typically faster for me, especially when we're doing kind of strange things because of COVID computers, where I'm spending a lot of my time. Mr. Weeks, the other instructor for early childhood, he is a phone person, so he is going to prefer you to contact him via phone. It's just different preferences. Again, you'll go to the top left to go home in to go back to your main homepage where you can see all of your courses. And I think that's kind of it. Like I said, it's kind of a strange semester. We're glad that you're here and you're willing to work through it. We've made as many adjustments to make it as meaningful. We feel pretty strongly that everything you're going to do is going to be just as great as if we were having our normal semester, maybe even better, because you can do it from the comfort of home if you so wish. Like I said, my name is Babs Hughes. Here's my contact information. Zenny Weeks is the name of the other early childhood and education person. There's only 2 of us. And here's his contact information. We are happy to help any way that we can. Because there's only 2 of us, we take a lot of pride in our division and in making sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure our students are successful.